Let's now meet Nora Gite, whom I had the pleasure to interview last month in Yaoundé during the Moving On Impact event dedicated to sustainable mobility. This representative of the world leader in tyres, Michelin, is committed to road safety. And that's a good thing, since in 2019, Michelin, Total Energies and the Global Road Safety Partnership joined forces to found the VIA program dedicated to road safety education. I started by asking Nora Gite how this awareness had started among major players in the industry.
Hello, Nora Gite. So you're head of Safe Mobility for Michelin. Why is road safety a priority focus for Michelin and the Michelin Foundation?
Okay, so good morning everyone. Thank you, Asha. My name is Nora Gite from the Michelin Group, and as you all know, Michelin is a tire manufacturing company. We've been dealing with this so-called safe mobility topic since many years, and then the subject is very important for Michelin because it's related to life, where we care about the life of others. So we started with our product, which is the product of safety. In a car or in the motorcycle, you will see the tires. And the tires is very important. And that's the only object which is actually a touch or touching the ground. That's why it is very important, if you don't have a good vehicle condition, or in this case tire, then you might have an accident. So, talking about the importance of this safe mobility in general, Michelin has a very much interest on it because we care about people, we care about our customer, our users, and all the people around us, even to our employees. So when we talk about safe mobility, we're not only talking about road safety itself. The scope is getting larger and bigger in a sense that we're not talking about, automotive industry, for example. We're talking beyond this automotive industry. And it means also we should all work together, to achieve what the so-called global plan.
So what is the global plan about?
That's a good question. Global plan is actually a blueprint. It's made or prepared by United Nations, and that's actually our base in order to look at on what, how, and who should be involved in this road safety plan. Yeah, and it's intended for all. It could be for national or local government, or even any stakeholders. So that's why when we talk about a global plan, we are now entering into the second decade of action. So every 10 years, United Nations will come up with a target or objective. Then 10 years ago, the objective was zero accident, which didn't happen. No one or no government in the world can achieve this zero accident, in their country. So now, on the second decade of action, we have the objective a little bit different, but it's also challenging, which is actually the reduction at least 50% of the accidents and fatality on the road. So this is a very clear message that with the question, who should do it? Then everyone.
While the number of deaths in traffic accidents in the world remains at an unacceptable level, 1.35 million people each year, an ambitious objective of halving the number of people killed and injured on the roads by 2030 has been included in the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Is this achievable? What needs to be done?
As in the global plan itself, there are three questions that we need to have as a guidance. So, what action should be done, how to do it, and who shall do it. Then when it comes to the who, it's not only government who should do it, but it's also private sectors, UN agencies, and then civil society. And when it comes to the civil society, it's including NGOs and then academia, and as well as the most important is actually the youth. where actually young people needs to be involved, because they are actually the most vulnerable in the ecosystem. And the last one is the funders.
If the situation is worrying all over the world, isn't it even more so here on the African continent? What factors could explain this situation? Are they societal, economic, technological?
Yes, that's right. The factors that you have mentioned are worrying everyone, and that's also stated actually in the global plan. Yeah, what are the concentration? How to do it? You know, in the implementation side, in fact, there are 7 aspects that we need to foresee. First, of course, the financing itself. We need to make sure that there will be financing when it comes to the actions. And then the legal framework, policies in the country needs to be in place, which is obvious. And then speed management, capacity building, especially to the managers or to the people who needs to understand what does it mean road safety. And gender perspective, you know, the difference between men and women, this is also important in order to achieve the objective of a global plan. And technology, and last one is actually the focus of these global plans. It's to the low and middle income countries. So it means Africa, it's one of the region that is being the focus of this global plan. Again, going back to the global plan, in fact, we have to know what is actually, we have to be reminded what I mean in terms of objective. The objective is again the reduction of the at least 50% of the accident, death and accidents, fatal accidents.
In Africa, mobility means income for many. It's sometimes a question of survival. Safety is not a priority. How do you feel about this?
Yeah, this is the fact of life. Somehow, we can see in the low middle income countries, people need to eat. I can understand that, you know. But again, if something happened to them, they cannot even find a job. They cannot even continue with their lives. It's the end. So again, it's a consequence that we have to see. So we create this global strategic partnership. So it means for us, we will work with the UN agencies, with the NGOs, and with the private sectors. Yeah? Then how we do it? We do it by partnering with them in different regions, especially again in the low middle income countries. We identify Asia, Latin America, and Africa. And when we mentioned earlier that it's with the private sector, we have our partners in the private sectors. For example, in Africa, we work with Total Energies Foundation, and we created, in fact, the so-called VIA educational program. We have the deployment in many countries in Africa, and we concern with the fact that education is actually the basic in order to avoid accident. Yeah? The basic knowledge the children should have from their very young age.
And what about young people in all this? Are they a higher risk population? How do you address them?
Sure. It's obvious. You know, children, they're the most vulnerable. The age of 5 to 29 years old, this is the age where actually accident could happen to them, whether they are going in a vehicle with their parents, or they are walking on the street and being crashed by some vehicles and things like that. In Michelin, we are working with the NGO, the so-called YOURS, and YOURS is the bunch of youth all over the world, and they are concerned about the subject of road safety on their surrounding. So they are making a move with the so-called Claiming Our Space, and this is a kind of advocacy that they would like to be heard by the government or by their local government. Yeah? So by this way, they will give an input they will try to do something with the local entities in order to improve the situation of safety for them and also to the people in general.
So we spoke about young people, but it's not just about the young users and drivers, is it? Shouldn't it be about education at a very, very young age? What is Michelin or the foundation doing about it?
Yeah, in fact, Michelin Foundation and Total Energies Foundation, we come up with a project, a common project, the so-called VIA Educational Program. This is an innovative and active, creative methodology in teaching the road safety knowledge to the children from 10 to 18 years old. So our target is again low and middle income countries. There are many kinds of subjects that we can inform the children. You know, like depending on the area, when there is no public transport, for example, we will teach the children about walking. Because even about walking, yeah, in some areas in this world or even in Africa, which actually less of vehicles, but they just do walking everywhere on the street. No, there is a rule on that. You know, the basic rule that everyone or every children needs to know in order to avoid any accidents. So this kind of methodology, I think it's very efficient and it's easy to implement. I think we should have it everywhere.
So tell us more about this educational program.
So VIA Educational Program for Road Safety. This is actually a complete name of this program. VIA is not an abbreviation. It's just coming from the English word via. Yeah? So education can go via any other form. So what we use the word of VIA Educational Program for Road Safety, it's because it could be anywhere, it could go everywhere, you know. So now the objective of VIA or the ambition of VIA is very high. You know, we want to have more and more children to have this opportunity to learn the road safety education from this module of educations. The ambition of VIA, it's very big. We want every children in this world to have experienced the educational way of VIA. So, aside from that, we want also to have also the other ambition, which is actually the sustainability of the road safety education. How we do it? We need to work with the government. When it's already in the curriculum, it means the educational itself, it's obligation by all schools to be delivered to the children and for the children to receive it and to implement it by their own.
So Nora, my final question, what's your hope for the future when it comes to road safety in Africa?
Yeah, we hope, and I think personally, I believe if everyone works together and if we concentrate just on Africa, I believe the 50% less accident as the objective of the global plan can be achieved. And this is important. The countries in Africa, they need our support. They need the involvement of every stakeholders. Yeah? So they need us. I hope we can help to reduce the 50% reduction of accidents in Africa. But it's not only 50%, maybe until 0%. And this is the biggest challenge for everyone.